A real success story needs a man's name behind it. He said it with a smile, into a microphone, and the room applauded like it wasn't the most humiliating moment of my life. That's the night my father handed over the company I built to my little brother. Not a warning, not a conversation, just applause. And I stood there, clapping, like I didn't feel my whole body go numb. I remember the chandelier overhead, casting light on everyone's faces. They were all smiling. My mother touched my arm, but her hand felt cold. My brother Noah looked uncomfortable for maybe 3 seconds before he grinned and waved. My father didn't even glance my way. That's the night I stopped trying to earn anything from him. That's the night I realized I'd spent 28 years building a dream that would never have my name on it. I finished my champagne, set the glass down carefully, and started planning my exit, because when you've been underestimated your whole life, you learn how to make your goodbye unforgettable. My smile didn't crack. Not once. I took another sip of champagne, nodded at people who congratulated Noah, made polite conversation about the company's exciting new direction. I even posed for a family photo. But inside, I was calculating. People think silence means weakness. They assume quiet people are pushovers. They're wrong. I learned early that silence is where power grows. While everyone else is talking, you're watching. You're noticing who lies, who's loyal, who's actually running things behind the curtain. I didn't storm out that night. I stayed until the end, shook hands, smiled for the cameras, let my father give his speech about passing the torch to the next generation. The next generation. Like I didn't exist. I watched my brother stumble through his acceptance speech, reading words I knew he didn't write. Probably our PR team drafted it. His hands trembled slightly as he held the paper. He kept glancing at our father for approval, like a child performing in a school play. And I took mental notes, because I wasn't planning revenge. I was planning freedom. I'm Harper Ellison, and I was raised to be replaceable, not a victim, not perfect, but strategic. My father didn't raise a daughter. He raised a placeholder, a temporary solution, until his son was old enough to take over. And I let him, for years, because I thought maybe if I proved myself enough, if I worked hard enough, if I sacrificed enough, he'd finally see me. Spoiler, he never did. I graduated top of my class. He said, "Good job." I saved the company from bankruptcy when I was 24. He said, "That's what family does." I brought in clients that tripled our revenue. He said, "Keep it up." But he never said, "This is yours," because in his mind, it never could be. I have his business brain, his work ethic, his ability to read people and markets, his negotiation instincts, his capacity to see 3 moves ahead in any business deal. But I don't have the one thing that mattered to him. I wasn't born male. So I became the best employee he never properly valued. The one who showed up early and stayed late. The one who solved problems before they became crises. The one who made everyone else look good. I was 13 when my mother gave birth to the future of the Ellison name. She didn't say that out loud, but my father did. Constantly. He held my baby brother like he was holding a trophy. Like Noah's existence validated something. I remember standing in the hospital room, holding flowers I'd picked from our garden, watching my father's face transform. He looked complete. And for the first time in my life, I felt like I didn't exist. Before Noah, I was Daddy's girl. I'd sit in his office after school, watching him work. He'd explain contracts to me, teach me about margins and leverage. He'd let me reorganize his filing system. He'd quiz me on business terminology and beam when I got the answers right. He'd ruffle my hair and say, "You're smart, Harper." real smart. But the day Noah was born, something shifted. I was still smart, still helpful, still his daughter. But I wasn't the future anymore. I was just the older sister, the one who'd help raise the actual heir, the one who'd babysit while they attended business dinners, the one who'd tutor Noah through his homework while they discussed company strategy at the dinner table. Nobody said it directly, but I felt it in every decision made after that day, in every conversation that stopped when I entered the room, in every plan that suddenly included when Noah's old enough. From then on, I wasn't the heir. I was the assistant. At 16, I was balancing inventory spreadsheets while Noah played video games in the next room. I didn't complain. I thought if I became essential, I'd be chosen. I wasn't. At 18, I was sitting in client meetings, taking notes, learning the business inside and out. Noah was failing high school math. I'd help him with his homework after finishing the quarterly reports. I'd proofread his college essays between conference calls. At 20, I was running our logistics division. Noah was partying through his freshman year of college, posting pictures on social media while I was pulling all-nighters to fix supply chain issues. At 22, I had an MBA and a job offer from a competitor that would have doubled my salary. The CEO had personally called me, said I had exceptional vision, and that they'd build a division around me. I turned it down because my father said, "I need you here, Harper. You're the only one I trust." I believed him. I thought need and trust meant something. I thought they meant I was valued, that eventually he'd make it official, that all these years of sacrifice would culminate in recognition. But I was useful, not chosen. There's a difference. And I learned it too late. Useful means you're a tool. Chosen means you're an investment. I was 23 when I first heard him say it. I was working late, finishing a presentation that would save us from losing our biggest client. They were threatening to walk after a botched delivery. My father had been in panic mode all week. My father's office door was cracked open, and I heard voices. Him and a board member. "Harper's doing well," my father said. "Real asset to the team. She's got good instincts. But of course the future is Noah." Noah, my brother, still in college, still failing half his classes, still calling me at midnight asking for help with basic assignments. I stood frozen in the hallway, holding my laptop. "You sure about that?" the board member asked. "Harper's the one who actually runs things around here. She's the one clients ask for. Noah doesn't even—" "She's excellent," my father interrupted. "One of the best. But this is a family legacy, and legacies need a son to carry them forward. That's just how it works. That's tradition. That's what my father did, and his father before him. That's just how it works. Like it was a law of nature. Like gravity. Like something unchangeable and absolute." I went back to my desk, finished the presentation, saved the client. They renewed their contract for 3 more years and increased their order volume by 40%. And I started keeping records of everything I did, because that night, I realized I was building something I'd never own. I was pouring my life into a legacy that would erase me. I was the ghostwriter of my own story. Noah screwed up a shipment worth $2 million. Wrong warehouse. Wrong country. Wrong everything. He'd mixed up codes, failed to verify the routing, and sent an entire shipment of temperature-sensitive materials to a hot storage facility instead of the climate-controlled destination. The client was furious, threatening to sue, threatening to leave, threatening to tell every company in the industry what had happened. My father called me at midnight. No greeting, no preamble, just fix this. So I did. I spent 3 days negotiating, rebuilding trust. I flew to their headquarters personally, I sat across from their CEO and took full responsibility, even though Noah's name was nowhere in my explanation, absorbing the financial loss personally through my division's budget, so it wouldn't show up on the quarterly report. I called in favors from shipping companies, customs brokers, and warehouse managers. I worked 20-hour days sleeping in airports, eating meals out of vending machines. And I saved it. The client stayed. The lawsuit disappeared. The shipment got redirected with expedited handling that I negotiated at cost. I even managed to turn it into an opportunity, pitching them on an upgraded tracking system that would prevent future errors. Noah got a bonus for handling a crisis with grace. His face appeared in the internal newsletter with the headline, "Quick Thinking Saves Major Account." I got a thank you email, typed by the receptionist, signed with my father's auto-signature. I printed that email, put it in a folder labeled Evidence. The folder got thicker every year. I created a modular tech platform that scaled our production by 40%. It took me 2 years, nights and weekends, early mornings before anyone else arrived. I taught myself 3 programming languages, hired freelancers with my own money, paying them out of my salary, tested it in secret until it was perfect, running simulations and stress tests until every bug was eliminated. Then I showed my father. He loved it, called it revolutionary, said it would change everything. He actually hugged me, something he rarely did, said it was brilliant work. 3 months later, they launched it under Noah's name. Press release, interview, photo shoot, magazine feature, the works. Meet Noah Ellison, the innovator bringing Ellison Global into the future. I watched the interview from my office, heard my brother describe his vision using words I'd written in the original pitch deck, using metaphors I'd crafted, explaining technical details he barely understood, fumbling through the terminology. My father was asked about it later by a journalist. I overheard him tell someone, "Noah needs the visibility. He's the future of the company, and the industry needs to know his name." Harper understands that. She's always been a team player. Visibility. I didn't want spotlight. I didn't want fame. I just wanted the truth. But truth didn't matter when you weren't the chosen one. Truth was negotiable, flexible, something that could be adjusted to fit the narrative they needed. I kept the receipts. Every project I led, every product I built, every client I brought in, every crisis I solved, every innovation I created, every late night, every saved contract, every avoided disaster. I logged it, dated it, backed it up on 3 separate drives and a cloud server. People thought I was obsessive. My assistant once asked why I kept such detailed records, why I photographed whiteboards before erasing them, why I saved every email, every text, every voicemail. Just being thorough, I said, but the real reason? When you know they'll try to erase you, you keep proof. I had emails with timestamps showing I sent deliverables at 3 in the morning. I had signed contracts with my name on them as the primary negotiator. I had patents filed under my legal ownership, video recordings of presentations where I explained concepts Noah later claimed as his own, client testimonials addressed to me specifically thanking me for solutions and innovations. I had meeting notes in my handwriting that predated official project launches by months. I had a paper trail that couldn't be denied because I knew this day would come. The day when they'd hand everything over to Noah and pretend I'd just been helping out. The day when my years of work would be summarized as supporting the team. I knew they'd rewrite history, so I documented the truth. The night of the gala, my mother clapped too. She stood beside my father, wearing the diamond necklace he'd given her on their anniversary, smiling for the cameras, applauding as Noah accepted his new role as chief executive officer of Ellison Global. But I saw her eyes. Just for a second, a flicker of something real breaking through the performance. She glanced at me across the room, and I saw something I'd never seen before. Shame. Not regret. Not sadness. Shame. Because she knew. She'd always known. She knew I was the one running things. She knew I was the one clients called. She knew I was the one who woke up thinking about the business and fell asleep solving its problems. She knew Noah wasn't ready. She knew this was wrong. But she didn't stop it. She never stopped it. My mother taught me to be gracious, to be smart, to work twice as hard for half the credit. She taught me to smile when men took credit for my ideas. She taught me that women had to be strategic, had to be patient, had to wait for the right moment. But she never taught me to fight. And in that moment, seeing the shame in her eyes, I realized something that hurt worse than my father's betrayal. She saw me. She always had. She just didn't choose me either. She'd chosen her marriage, her comfort, her position as Mrs. Ellison over her daughter's future. She'd chosen the path of least resistance. She'd chosen silence. And I'd inherited that silence until tonight. I resigned with one sentence. Monday morning. His office. Just the two of us. Thank you for the opportunity. I'm moving on. That's all I said. I handed my father a printed letter. 2 weeks' notice. Professional. Clean. Standard format. He looked confused. Actually confused, like I'd spoken in a foreign language. Moving on where? He asked. Somewhere else, I said. He actually laughed, actually leaned back in his chair, and laughed like I'd told a joke. Harper, don't be dramatic. You're upset about the gala. I get it, but this is family. You don't just leave family. We need you here. Noah needs you here. I'm not leaving family. I said quietly. I'm leaving a company that doesn't value me. His smile faded. The laugh died. You're overreacting. You know how important you are to operations. This doesn't change anything about your role. It changes everything. I said, but that's not why I'm leaving. Then why? Because I finally stopped waiting for you to see me. I walked out of his office, cleaned out my desk while he sat there, stunned, said goodbye to my assistant, who hugged me and whispered, I'm proud of you. My father didn't follow me, didn't call. He assumed I'd cool down and come back. They all did. Even Noah sent a text. You'll be back. You love this place too much. But I didn't love the place. I loved what I'd built. And I was taking that with me. I left with exactly one thing. The modular platform. The tech system. The innovation they'd launched under Noah's name with such fanfare. Except I owned it. Legally. The patent was filed in my name. I paid for the development with my own money, keeping every receipt, every contractor invoice. I built it on my own time, using my own resources. Every line of code was written on my personal laptop, on my personal network, outside of work hours. They never checked. They were too busy looking past me to notice what I actually controlled. My lawyer had helped me verify everything before I filed. We'd been meticulous. The company could keep using the current version, but any updates, any improvements, any expansion of the system, any integration with new technologies, that required my permission, and I wasn't planning to give it. My first office was above a bakery. One room, narrow stairs that creaked, a window that stuck, the smell of fresh bread drifting up through the floorboards every morning at 4:30 when they started the ovens. No team, no investors, no safety net, just me, 2 whiteboards I bought at a discount store, and my laptop. I called it Meridian Systems. It wasn't much, but for the first time in my life, it was mine. I woke up at 5, every morning to the sound of the bakery ovens firing up. The sound became my alarm clock. I'd make coffee in the cheap machine I'd brought from home, open my laptop, and build. No meetings about Noah's vision. No fixing his mistakes. No watching my work get credited to someone else. No performance reviews where my father praised my work ethic, but never mentioned my future. No more pretending that team player was a compliment instead of a consolation prize. Just me and the work. I started small, reached out to old contacts, people I'd worked with before, people who knew what I could do, people who'd seen me in action, who'd watched me solve problems that everyone else said were unsolvable. "You're not with Ellison Global anymore?" They'd ask, surprise evident in their voices. No, I'd say, I never really was. Most of them understood immediately. Some had suspected. Others had seen the dynamic and felt uncomfortable, but hadn't known what to say. Within 3 weeks, I had my first client. His name was Richard Chen, logistics director for a mid-sized manufacturing company that specialized in electronics components. We'd worked together when I was at Ellison Global. He'd been in the room during the $2 million crisis. He knew who'd actually fixed it. He knew my work. Knew I was the one who actually delivered results, who answered emails at midnight, who understood the details that made the difference between success and failure. "You're really out on your own?" he asked when I called. "I am," I said. There was a pause. Then, "Good, because I've been waiting for this." He signed a contract that afternoon. No haggling, no requests for discounts, no comparing me to competitors. He said, "I always knew you were the real thing. Your father's an idiot for letting you go. Actually, I don't think he let you go. I think you escaped." That client gave me credibility, and credibility led to referrals. Richard told 3 other directors. They called me within days. 2 more clients signed on within a month. Then 5 more. Then 10. All people who'd worked with me before. People who knew loyalty doesn't come from legacy. It comes from results. From showing up. From doing what you say you'll do. From actually caring about their problems instead of just collecting fees. I found Jacob stocking shelves at an electronics store. He'd worked at Ellison Global briefly. Brilliant engineer. Quiet. Thoughtful. The kind of person who solved problems nobody else saw coming. Who anticipated issues 3 steps ahead. Who wrote clean, elegant code that never needed debugging. My father fired him for being non-leadership material. Translation: Jacob didn't talk enough in meetings. Didn't perform confidence. Didn't play the game of corporate theater. I walked into that electronics store looking for a charging cable. And there he was, wearing a name tag, rearranging tablet displays with the same careful precision he'd once applied to code. "Jacob," I said. He looked up, recognized me, looked embarrassed, like I'd caught him at something shameful. "Harper." "Hi. I didn't know you shopped here." "I don't," I said, "but I'm looking for a lead developer. Interested?" He blinked, looked around like I might be talking to someone else. "You're serious?" "Completely. But I was fired. Your father said." "My father said a lot of things. Most of them were wrong. Can you start Monday?" 6 months later, Jacob was running my entire tech division. He wasn't leadership material because he didn't perform. He was brilliant because he focused on substance, because he cared about quality over quantity, because he built things that actually worked instead of things that looked impressive in presentations. And that's exactly what I needed. I hired 6 more people the same way. People who'd been overlooked, undervalued, passed over for promotions because they didn't fit someone's narrow definition of success. People who knew what it felt like to be invisible despite being essential. We became a team of ghosts who decided to haunt the industry. I didn't watch them. I didn't check their press releases or stalk their social media. Didn't Google my father's name or track Noah's interviews. I was too busy building. One contract at a time. One hire at a time. One satisfied client at a time. One problem solved at a time. They thought silence meant failure. They probably assumed I'd crashed and burned, that I'd come crawling back within 6 months, humbled and ready to accept my proper place. But I wasn't failing. I was scaling. My team grew to 8 people, then 15, then 30. We worked out of that cramped office above the bakery until we couldn't fit anymore, until we were literally sitting on each other's desks. Then we moved to a real office building. Nothing fancy. No marble lobby or impressive reception area. No corporate art or designer furniture. But it was ours. We had whiteboards on every wall, windows that actually opened, a kitchen where we made coffee and argued about solutions, a space where people did their best work because they wanted to, not because they had to. No ego, no drama, no taking credit for other people's work, just results. I didn't need to prove anything to my father. I was proving it to myself and to every person who'd ever been told they weren't enough. They launched a big campaign about 18 months after I left. Billboards across 3 cities, speeches at industry conferences, a glossy video about the Ellison vision for tomorrow that cost more than my entire annual budget. Noah's face was everywhere, on bus stops, in airports, in trade magazines. My assistant showed me one of the ads on her phone. Have you seen this? I glanced at it, shrugged. Good for them. Doesn't it bother you? She asked. They're claiming innovations you developed, using strategies you created. Even that tagline is from your original pitch. No, I said honestly, let them have the flash. We've got the foundation. Because here's the thing about flashy campaigns. They're loud. They get attention. They generate buzz. But they don't build trust. Trust gets built in quiet moments, in delivering on promises, in showing up when things go wrong, in answering the phone at 8 p.m. because a client has a crisis, in admitting when you don't know something instead of pretending expertise you don't have. While they flaunted, I focused, and my clients noticed. They noticed that I returned calls within hours, that I knew their businesses well enough to anticipate problems, that my team actually cared about finding solutions instead of just selling services. They noticed that we delivered what we promised when we promised it without excuses or exceptions. Flashy campaigns get attention. Quality gets loyalty. Noah made the cover of a business magazine about 2 years after I left. Meet the visionary son taking Ellison Global to new heights. Someone mailed me a copy. I don't know who. There was no return address. Maybe a former colleague who thought I should know. Maybe someone who wanted me to hurt. I read the article over coffee one morning at my desk. He quoted a line from a pitch deck I'd written 3 years earlier. Word for word. I remembered writing that sentence at 2 a.m, revising it 17 times until it captured exactly what I meant. The future of logistics isn't about moving products. It's about moving intelligence. My line, my words, my idea. There were other things too, strategies I developed, philosophies I'd articulated, even a metaphor I'd used in a presentation about companies being like orchestras, needing every instrument to play their part. All of it attributed to him. I set the magazine down, took a sip of coffee, and got back to work, because being angry would have meant I still cared what they thought, and I didn't anymore. They tried to sue me. 6 months after I left, their system started glitching. The version of the platform they were using needed an update. Technology evolves. Code needs maintenance. Security patches become necessary. But they couldn't update it Because I owned it. Their lawyers sent a cease and desist letter. 8 pages of legal threats. Accused me of theft. Said I'd stolen proprietary technology. Claimed I'd violated my employment contract and breached fiduciary duty. They demanded I turn over all rights immediately. My lawyer responded with a single document, the patent filing, dated 2 years before I left, filed in my name, paid for with my personal funds, with bank statements to prove it. It went to court anyway. They argued I developed it on company time, that any work done by an employee belonged to the company, that I'd used company resources, that my knowledge of the business came from my employment, making anything I created their property. I showed timestamps, receipts, proof that every single line of code was written outside work hours, on my own equipment, on my own network. I showed the freelancer contracts I'd paid for personally, the coffee shop receipts where I'd worked on weekends, the library sign-in logs where I'd spent evenings. I had 3 witnesses willing to testify that they'd seen me working on it independently. The judge reviewed everything over a 2-day hearing, then ruled in my favor. The technology belongs to Ms. Ellison, completely and permanently. The plaintiff has failed to demonstrate any legitimate claim to the intellectual property in question. My father was in the courtroom that day, sitting in the second row with his lawyers. I didn't look at him, but I felt his stare. After the ruling, he tried to approach me in the hallway. I kept walking. My lawyer said he looked shocked, like he genuinely believed he'd win. Like he genuinely believed that everything I created belonged to him by default. 1 week after the lawsuit ended, 3 of their top clients left. They came to me. No negotiation. No bidding war. No attempts to leverage us against each other for better rates. They just said, "We want to work with you." The first was Richard Chen's company, expanding their contract to include 3 new divisions. The second was a shipping firm I'd brought to Ellison Global 4 years earlier, one I'd personally saved from a regulatory nightmare. The third was their oldest client, a company that had been with my father for 15 years, since before I was born. Why now? I asked their CEO, a woman named Margaret who'd been in the industry for 30 years. She looked at me directly. Because we always knew it was you. You were the one who made things work. You were the one who understood our business. You were the one who answered questions at midnight and solved problems nobody else even saw coming. And we're tired of pretending otherwise. Tired of working with people who take credit for other people's work. Tired of paying premium prices for mediocre results just because of a legacy name. Revenue doubled that quarter. My team had to work overtime to keep up, pulling long hours to ensure we didn't drop the ball during the transition. But we did it because we were built on something real, because everyone on the team knew their work mattered, because nobody was invisible. Noah called me late one night, almost 2 years after I'd left. It was late, almost 11. I was reviewing contracts in my apartment. I saw his name on my phone and almost didn't answer. But curiosity won. "Harper." His voice sounded tired, strained. "Yeah, I wanted to check in. See how you're doing." "I'm fine," I said. Silence. I could hear him breathing, could imagine him in his expensive office or his expensive apartment trying to figure out what to say. "Look," he said finally, "I know things are weird. I know you're probably angry, but we're family. We should talk. Maybe we could work together, combine forces, pool our resources. We'd be stronger together. The Ellison name means something. We could rebuild the relationship, make it what it should be, stronger together." I let him finish, let him make his pitch. He talked about synergy and family legacy, and how much more we could accomplish united. Then I said, "Noah, I am strong. I don't need to combine anything. Harper, take care of yourself, I said, and I hung up because I didn't need to prove anything to him either. He called back twice. I didn't answer. He sent emails. I didn't respond. Eventually, he stopped. I didn't destroy them. They did that themselves. When you build a company on ego and appearances instead of substance, when you prioritize image over competence, when you value legacy over capability, it doesn't take much for cracks to show. Their system kept glitching. Clients got frustrated. Mistakes piled up. The innovations I created started failing because nobody understood how to maintain them. Noah didn't know how to fix things because he'd never actually built anything. He'd never spent nights debugging code, never taught himself new skills, never solved a problem from first principles. My father was too proud to admit he needed help, too proud to call me, too proud to acknowledge that maybe, just maybe, he'd been wrong. So they floundered. They hired expensive consultants who couldn't solve problems they didn't understand. They threw money at issues that required knowledge, not capital. I watched from a distance, not with satisfaction, but with something quieter. Certainty. Certainty that I'd made the right choice, that I'd saved myself, that I'd chosen my own worth over their acceptance. I didn't need to sabotage them. I didn't need revenge. I didn't need to gloat or watch them fail. I just needed to keep doing what I did best and let the results speak. The email came on a Tuesday morning, exactly 3 years after I'd left Ellison Global. Subject: National Innovator of the Year nomination. I thought it was spam. Almost deleted it without opening. My finger was literally hovering over the delete button. But something made me open it. Dear Ms. Ellison, you have been nominated for the National Innovator of the Year Award in recognition of your groundbreaking contributions to logistics technology and systems innovation. Your work has been identified by our panel as having significant impact on the industry. I read it 3 times. Then I checked the sender, cross-referenced the email address, looked up the organization. Legitimate, prestigious, the kind of award that actually meant something. I looked at the nominee list attached to the email. 20 names. Industry giants. CEOs of major corporations with 50-year histories. People with massive teams and unlimited resources. I was the only woman. The only one not born into wealth. The only one who'd built everything from scratch. Who'd started in a room above a bakery with nothing but a laptop and determination. My hands shook as I set down my phone. Jacob knocked on my door. You okay? You look pale. I looked up. Yeah, I got nominated for something. The Innovator Award. He grinned. I know. I'm the one who nominated you. I stared at him. You what? You deserved recognition. So I submitted your portfolio. Wasn't sure you'd get nominated, honestly. The competition was insane. But apparently the panel was unanimous. I couldn't speak. He shrugged, looking pleased with himself. Somebody needed to make sure your work was seen. Figured it should be someone who actually knows what you did. The ceremony was in a hotel ballroom. The same hotel chain where my father had held the gala 3 years earlier. Different city, but the same company. Same style of chandelier. Same round tables. A stage with a podium that looked eerily familiar. I wore a simple black dress. Nothing flashy. Nothing designer. Just clean lines and confidence. Sat at a table with my team. Jacob and 6 others. The people who believed in me when I was working above a bakery, who'd taken a chance on someone with no company name, no safety net, no guarantees, and tried not to think about the fact that my father was somewhere in the audience. I'd seen his name on the attendee list. He was being honored for lifetime achievement in the industry, for building Ellison global, for his decades of innovation and leadership. Of course he was. The awards started, category after category: lifetime achievement, rising star, corporate responsibility, sustainable innovation. Then they reached mine. And now, for National Innovator of the Year. The host was a man in his 60s, distinguished, well-known in the industry. He opened the envelope, paused, smiled. Harper Ellison. Not Noah. Not the Ellison Group. Not Ellison Global. Just me. The room erupted in applause. I stood. My legs felt shaky. I could feel hundreds of eyes on me. Could feel my father's presence somewhere in the crowd. I walked to the stage. And for the first time in my life, I didn't look back to see if my father was watching. I didn't need to. I reached the podium, accepted the award, a crystal piece that caught the light, heavy and real in my hands. I looked out at the audience, and I spoke. Thank you. This award represents more than innovation. It represents the truth that success isn't inherited. It's earned. It represents everyone who's been told they're not enough, who's had their work credited to someone else, who's been invisible despite being essential. This is for everyone who decided to bet on themselves.